Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Amazing Race Rewind podcast, the podcast where we rewind back in time to watch the earliest seasons of The Amazing Race for the first time. My name is Andrew.
And I'm Jill.
And we're here today with the 6th episode of Season 4, where we finally leave Europe.
Woohoo!
So, yeah, this was a standout episode to me, just for like it being a stark contrast to the Eurocentric first 5 episodes. But what did you think?
No, I would agree. I know we said kind of last week we thought we'd see a lot more of the stressors in some teams, but it kind of pleasantly surprised us. The teams who I thought would be in shambles were actually doing okay.
Yeah, and I think all things considered, this was a relatively well done India leg. Like, yes. Especially in comparison to what we've seen in season 1, where it was a lot more offensive. Teams were like breaking down a lot more, and it was really getting to them. I thought this was done a little bit more tactfully. But the big headline of the episode was the whole train scene, or like the train system, which was a little bit uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable, and it was a little bit disquieting. But I think it was an enjoyable episode, all things considered.
Yeah, and I mean, that I have to point out, I feel like the producers chose that mode of transportation for a reason, and I think it was uncomfortable in an intentional way, if that makes sense. The producers were trying to really push the teams out of their norm. Yeah,
but I don't know if they fully thought through it, or they foresaw what would happen with this, which was not great. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah.
But I think like it did do a good job of showing Mumbai to an American audience, like the cultural differences, and like I did find it fascinating in that way.
Yes.
But I do feel like there's always like the conversation where it's like, okay, at what point is this like becoming exploitative, where we're filming people and children on the streets? It's
because obviously they do film it in a different manner than we've seen. Like, they film the general population in a different manner than we've seen in the last 5 legs.
Yeah.
And it is such a fine line that, again, I haven't watched any more recent episodes of the show in recent years, but I would love to see if they have gone back and if it's filmed differently today.
Yeah, I would assume so.
I would hope so.
Feel like I would assume so. And I would assume that there wouldn't be as much like ethical consideration at this point in reality TV, which is it's still being new.
Yeah.
Yeah. But fun fact, this was the episode that they submitted for the Emmys and won in 2004.
Which Emmy?
For Outstanding Reality Competition Program.
They submitted this episode?
Yeah. So clearly they were proud of it. I don't know. They thought it was great work.
Interesting. Well, good for them.
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay, so getting into the episode, we are starting at the castle from the pit stop outside of Amsterdam, and teams are having this royal dinner.
It was such a weird. They're quite literally in a what do you call that? A dining hall, and there's all these old paintings on the walls, and they're dining together in a very formal setting. It's quite something.
Incredibly posh it was. Millie and Chuck are the first to depart at 2:25 a.m. And Millie was elated to go to India. She was very excited.
Yes, she was jumping for joy.
Yeah. And they are instructed to go to the Film City part, which is part of the Bollywood industry. John and Al get going at 3:15 a.m., Kelly and John at 3:34 a.m., and we get a little confessional from them saying that Kelly is kind of starting to settle down. They're coming into their own as a team, and they seem to be in great spirits following the last episode.
They're a different team than we've seen the last 5 legs, I will say.
Other teams get going, Riken and Chip, Monica and Cherie, David and Jeff. Okay, and then finally Tian and Jeree, who are the last to depart, and say, okay, we're going to Mumbai, India. And Tian says that she, quote, can't fight anymore.
You know what? It takes strength to accept defeat.
Yeah, it takes strength to accept defeat. And I think this was a turning point, this episode was for them. I think they definitely gained a few more congeniality points. I don't even know what I meant by that. I think they were. I don't know. I think they were just. They had a little bit of a redemption this episode.
I would mostly agree, not entirely, but for the most part, yeah.
Okay, so we go to the airport where there's a little bit of airport drama, mainly surrounding Riken and Chip.
See, and the way they were setting this up, it made me think that they were really going to get wronged by this, or that there would be this... Basically, what's happening is from Amsterdam, or I think that's where they are, most teams, or actually all the teams, just because they get there before the desks open, but they know that there is a direct flight from Amsterdam to Mumbai, leaving at something like 10:30 on KLM Airlines. Riken and Chip discover that if they go through a connection in Milan, so Amsterdam to Milan, Milan to Mumbai, they could potentially get in roughly an hour earlier. And they are really sitting with this decision. They don't know what to do. And to me, the way it was being edited and how drawn out it was made me think that either A, something was going to go horribly wrong, or B, they would get this incredible, massive lead that would just set them ahead. And spoiler alert, but nothing kind of came of it. It was
inconsequential.
Yeah. Like, yes, they got in early, but it ultimately didn't matter at all.
Yeah. Yeah, so they go through and they're just like really deeply weighing their options here, and it's like, wow, we don't know what we're gonna do. This is gonna like make or break our game. Nothing happened.
It's like, yeah, they got in 40 minutes early, but
yeah. So they were the only ones who went this route. They did propose this to Monica and Cherie, but Monica and Cherie said, we don't want to deal with connections. We're just gonna go KLM with everybody else.
Because yeah, that's the thing, is the entire pack was on one flight.
Yeah. On the KLM flight, which was direct to Mumbai. Okay, and we're arriving and enter the stereotypical Indian music with like the chimey bell sounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can't help themselves.
They've got... I've just imagined they like the editors at... What studio was this at the time? CBS? NBC?
Yeah, it's CBS.
I just imagine the people in the CBS sound mixing room just finding, like, going into their little library of, like, stereotypical Indian music that they've used on every single show and just plopping that in at this point. Like, there's no consideration given.
Yeah, I am curious. I wonder what their, like, music files were like. Do you think they had, like, something for every country they went to? It's like, okay, this is our... like Thailand music. I'm just trying to
think of what the system would have been at that time, like the actual technical system would have been for scoring. I don't actually know what the scoring system would have been. I don't think they would have been keeping music on files, on like floppy disks or whatever at that point.
I wonder, because I know for Survivor, like for the first few seasons, like they had a composer and like come in to like compose like a whole soundtrack, like original soundtrack for the show. I wonder if there was any of that for these early seasons of The Amazing Race.
It'd be interesting to see. We should reach out to some of the production team.
See if they could come on for an interview, yeah.
I think that would be so cool.
I agree. I really do agree. Okay, so if anybody knows anybody, let us know.
Yeah, we would love to have a discussion.
Yeah, okay. So Riken and Chip are the first to arrive. They get into a taxi. One of them says they have traveled to India before.
Yes.
So it wasn't really much of a shock, but the other one did have a little bit of a quote-unquote culture shock here, where they're just kind of looking at all the people on the street, and this is where we see them like filming children, and they're just kind of like talking about it and like, I guess, reflecting. I guess they're not reflecting because they're in the situation right now. I don't know, but they're just talking about it.
And well, they do this with all the teams too, really. They do it with almost every single team while they're in that cab, is they're kind of having the teams just describe what they're seeing and narrating, which, yeah, brings up your earlier point of the ethical considerations.
Yep. Yeah, and they do this shot of, I don't know, one of Riken and Chip, where they like zoom in slow-mo as like a tear dramatically rolls down his face. The second plane...
I'm sorry, yeah. No, this is the wrong... We're going to have to move this in the timeline of the Audacity recording, because this is the wrong time to bring it in. Okay. I love that you and I, we can't tell these teams apart. Like, if it's not a couple, if it's we don't
same
know.
Sex.
Well, even it is a couple, yeah. Like, Riken and Chip, I don't know who's who.
Idea.
Tian and Dree, couldn't tell you. Monica and Cherie, nope.
You know what, Tian and Dree, I am able to tell apart now. Because
they no longer look the same to me, but I still can't tell them apart.
Because Dree is the one who can't run, and she's also the one who was being the meaner one last episode with all the insults.
I see.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to more of that later.
Okay. The second plane arrives, and yeah, we get all of the team's commentary on their surroundings and like what they're thinking about the seeing Mumbai for the first time, and Raikkonen and Ship arrive at the film studio first, and they're told they have to go to Studio 10 and search the soundstage for their next clue. But the place doesn't open for another 9 hours.
Another muster point. So they just decide it's going to be a little camp out. So they get their sleeping bags out, and I actually kind of liked this whole segment.
I loved it.
All the teams slowly arrive, and they at first they're kind of lining up, because there's kind of outside, there's the gates to the film studio, and then there's this basically slab of cement outside. And they there's a really cute shot of all, whatever it is, 7 teams, 8 teams, all sleeping together in like a big huddle, like big group sleepover on this cement slab, because they all just decide, we'll just wait it out here.
Yeah, I thought it was really sweet. And I don't think we've ever seen this before, where every single team is sleeping together outside.
No, it was quite interesting. And then the morning, it cracked me up because it's like dramatically, fades to morning. And it's like one of Tien and Juri has a fire going.
I think it's Tien, yeah. She somehow was made of fire and is crouched down,
it's so primitive.
Warming her hands and everything. It's yes, this is crazy.
It's just so funny.
Yeah, I don't even know how she did that or why she felt the need to make a fire.
I know.
It's did they bring matches with them? I don't know.
Anyway.
Just going back a little bit. Chuck says on the train ride to the studio, he says he saw a rat the size of a cat, which I thought was a fun visual to imagine.
I don't want to imagine that.
Okay. So the gates open to this Bollywood studio, and everybody gets a bike, and they're off to find Studio 10, and David and Jeff arrive first, where they learn of the detour.
Suds or duds?
Yeah, but first of all, before we get into this, I was disappointed. I wanted there to be a Bollywood task.
I know, something to do with the dance or the film studio itself.
I thought this was really a lost opportunity.
It was. I'll give you that.
So the detour, suds or duds. So for suds, the teams have to make their way to an outdoor laundromat where they're going to wash a bundle of laundry by hand until they find a piece of clothing that has the clue printed on it that they can only be revealed once they scrub off the layers of dirt and clay or grime, whatever else is on these clothes. And duds, the other option, is where they have to find a clothing shop and search through hundreds of saris to find the clue printed on one. But this shop is farther away and more difficult to find.
Yes, and almost every single team except for John and Al, everyone does suds except for John and Al. John and Al do duds.
Yes. Yeah, it's it is an interesting detour culturally, and that they have to go to this public laundromat, and then they have the traditional saris that they're kind of showcasing there. But it wasn't anything too interesting.
No, and in terms of there weren't any, in my opinion, there weren't really any highlight moments. Kind of the funny, there was I don't even know if it's funny. It was just kind of moment was when Tien and Juri were at the laundromat, and one of them's in the water about to start, and then the other just pushes the whole wad, is that what do you call it, a bundle of clothing into the water, just with when cats will look at you and you look at a cat and you're don't do it, and the cat will just push the thing off the table.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
bat the glass off.
Yeah.
The table and shatter it. That's very much what it was giving. But the main takeaway from this wasn't the detour itself. It was how teams were to get to the detour, which they were restricted to only taking the train.
Yes, the public transit system.
Yep. So teams first have to get to the train, and a bunch of teams just kind of run aimlessly in a group. But people do eventually find a bus to take them to a train station. They seem to be able to hop onto a moving bus. Some teams are on all different buses. Some people struggle a little bit more than others, particularly Cherie and Monica. They're kind of struggling here to find the train station.
Yeah, this leg, I will say, directionally has not been their forte.
Not at all. Okay, so and then we get to the train segment. This is, like we said, a very significant portion of the episode. And it was especially harrowing to watch for the women of the race.
Yes. I've seen videos of this before on Instagram or something, so it didn't surprise me, but just the sheer chaos of trying to get on and off and just how crowded it is on there, it's quite intense.
Yeah, so yeah, it's for those of you who aren't familiar, maybe didn't watch the episode. It's the train like pulls into the station. It's incredibly full, and it's just complete mayhem as people. You have to like pretty much shove your way on to get onto the station, and it's completely crowded. Everybody's like shoulder to shoulder. You can't move. So it's definitely a little bit more of a culturally shocking moment for those. Especially, I would assume at the time when there wasn't as much like media. Like, media wasn't so easily consumable.
Accessible,
in 2003, yeah.
Yeah, and I think just watching it, you feel claustrophobic. I know Kelly really isn't feeling good about it. It's quite intimidating for her. Tien and Jeree make a comment about this is kind of the only time in the race they felt as, how did they phrase it? Like, they felt...
They said that they haven't felt like defined by being a girl team until this moment.
Yeah, because there's a decent amount of groping or touching that they're not happy about. And that I think Kelly had some of that problem too as well. Like, it's very evident. And this is kind of where you're going back to what we talked about at the start of the episode, where in theory, I'm sure when the producers look at this on paper, it's like, it sounds like a great, it's a high stress situation. It's good for the teams to be immersed. It's good for them to be out and about. But in terms of personal safety and just like, I understand the race isn't always about comfort, but yeah, I feel like in terms of even like, you could tell there were some moments where the cameraman almost couldn't get on the train.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. It's like, how would like a giant camera be able to get onto this train? Or like, what if the team got on the train but the camera didn't?
Because that was and it's like no one's stopping for that camera. It's like if they're not on, they're not on. Like, and the thing is, once you're onto, like, Millie gets on at one point and then just kind of gets lost in the crowd, and Chuck's not on, and she's like yelling at him like, you need to get on. I can't, like, you cannot get off, like physically cannot move to get off.
Yeah, I understand that, like, it was for the TV moment, but it definitely was, it did go a little bit too far in terms of like they put the TV moment in front of the team's well-being.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like you said, yeah, I guess they should have had a little bit more foresight in this. It's kind of similar to the Nancy and Emily not being able to buy tickets in season 1 in India.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Because who ended up buying their tickets?
I don't know. I don't know who it was. It might like Frank did or something, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of take you back to that a little bit. But yeah, so okay, going through each of these teams. So Kelly and John, so I guess Riken and Chip are the first ones to do it. They just kind of push their way through, not much of an issue for them. Kelly and John go for it. They are first, they're quite bewildered and just like don't know what to do, so they run from door to door, like, oh my god, we can't fit. And then they realize they need to push their way to get on. And yeah, Kelly has quite the unpleasant experience when she's on the train. Millie pushes her way through, like you said, but Chuck was just kind of like idly standing there like, Millie, I can't get on. And it seemed like as if he was hanging off the side of the train by the time it left.
But that's what some people were doing, like when the train pulled into the station. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's how we had to deal with it.
So yeah, we see kind of all the teams go through this, and we still see Monica and Cherie are still in last place and haven't been able to find this train station. Okay, we see John and Al, who seem to only get screen time when they're balancing things on their noses or performing like little circus tricks to the locals, who are just completely unfazed by this and like don't care at all.
You know what? Maybe comedy isn't universal.
Maybe it isn't, and that's okay. They have a quote saying, "The New York subway is nothing in comparison to this." Riken and Chip go to wash clothes for the detour, and Kelly and John arrive shortly after. And we see there's a local like smacking his wet laundry and is like spraying Kelly with water, which she is a little upset about. And
she gets them in her mouth and she's not happy.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, but Riken and Chip finish the detour first and are instructed to go to Indo-Universal Engineering Sassoon
for the roadblock, which we will get to in a minute.
Yeah, Millie and Chuck have a little bit of a spat, I guess. Where, okay, first Millie like grabs some like locals' laundry and then washes it incorrectly, seemingly. But then they do find out they have to go find like the marked bag and not wash random laundry.
Yeah.
And Millie's like of course like knee deep in this water, like really getting into it. And she says to Chuck, "Get your shoes off and get in here." While Chuck is like standing outside, just like looking at the clothes and searching for
She's
anything.
the definition of go-getter.
No, she really is. She's not afraid to get her hands dirty.
No, she's pushing herself onto these trains. She's getting in the water. And Chuck is just there, standing emoji.
She's just like a small. Yeah, she was just standing emoji. She's just like a small little bullet.
Yeah, but you know what? She's driving that team.
Yeah. Okay, so Raikkonen, Chip, and David and Jeff pretty much arrive at the Indo-Universal Engineering place where they do the roadblock.
Ugh.
And the prompt is, who feels like the catch of the day?
And again, we talked about this last leg, or we have to talk about it again if this is you and me. Any alluding, any mention, any little waft of fish? Especially, like, absolutely not. You're doing this one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is also the second
fish like touching detour or roadblock in a row.
Fish or aquatic life detour.
Like, why?
Or roadblock in a row. So yeah, what the task is they have to enter a quote unquote foul smelling fish market and search for 20 palai fish in a pile of like diverse species of fish. So they have to look. Okay, this is what the fish looks like. They have to then go to a pile of fish and pick out 20 of those specific kinds of fish. And I guess the worst part of it is when they're carrying, first of all, they're carrying like a very, very heavy basket, like on their heads, and they get like showered with this like fish water. And it's like, these people are just like completely like drenched in
I actually
fish
might vomit.
juice.
That's so gross. I couldn't watch this. I couldn't watch it.
But it doesn't really seem to be overly challenging.
No. Especially if these first couple teams don't really have an issue differentiating between the fish. They get 20 on the first try, no issue.
Yeah, I guess the hardest part is carrying this basket, which is very heavy and awkward. But regardless, Raikkonen and Chip do it first, and they're making their way to the pit stop at the Gateway of India, which is a 79-year-old monument built to commemorate a visit from England's Queen Mary. So them and David and Jeff are kind of racing to the pit stop first to see who is going to win. Kelly and John arrive at the roadblock.
And Kelly apparently, I guess it must really smell, because Kelly makes a comment about the smell.
Yeah, and she says, I can tell you're going to do this one. So she's fully dropped her thing about needing to contribute to the team.
Yeah, but afterwards, she's just praising him. She's like, you did so well. I could have never done that.
Yeah, so good for her for that. So we go to the pit stop where we see David and Jeff and Raikkonen and Chip racing to the mat.
Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be?
And it's David and Jeff. And they arrive, like, David and Jeff arrive, and then maybe like 5-10 seconds later, you see Raikkonen and Chip arrive at the mat. And when Phil is telling David and Jeff, I don't know if you caught this, but when Phil is telling David and Jeff that they're in first, you can see like either Raikkonen or Chip, we don't know who is who, like curse in the background. Like you can see him like mouth like an F-bomb.
That being said though, when Raikkonen and Chip step on the mat, they take it graciously.
And notably, David and Jeff win a 7-night cruise vacation on Royal Caribbean's Vision of the Seas, which they can enjoy after the race. Yeah. So don't think you're going to be going there tomorrow.
No. Unless you're eliminated. Although I guess that's to be after the whole race is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at this point, again, like, Kelly and John finish the roadblock, not much issue. When Tiana, Jaree, and Millie and Chuck get there, these are kind of the two teams I think I noticed struggled telling the fish apart a little bit, but it wasn't a huge deal. They managed to get it.
So Tiana, Jaree, I think this is where they kind of have their little redemption moment, where Tiana's doing the roadblock, and she's saying like she'll push herself until she dies, and that's just the way she is. And Jaree in this moment was being like very encouraging to her with carrying these fish and her having to go back and grab some more. She says that she rocks, she kicked butt, and they were just in good spirits.
Complete 180.
That was good to see from them.
Yeah.
And they do talk about at the end that they've like they feel like they've worked through a rough patch and have like been able to move forward, and like the worst is behind them, or so they say. So
we will see.
Yeah. We'll see about them. But Kelly and John are in third. They've been doing well at the front of the pack these past couple of legs.
Yeah, they're showing up. They're in better spirits. Their team camaraderie is better. And I still don't love them as a team, but you know what? I wouldn't be mad if they made it further.
Yeah, me neither. They're just fine in my eyes. John and Al on the way to their pit stop. One of them tells the taxi driver, "Rapidido." The other one says, "Rapidido" doesn't mean fast in every language.
Also, rapidido is not rapid in any language that I know of. It's rapido in at least Spanish, Italian, I think Portuguese.
Let me search this up. Rapidido, Spanish translator.
Rápido.
Yeah, no, it's not real. So it was a good try. Maybe the taxi driver spoke Spanish. Who knows? Maybe it worked.
I feel like the percentage of Spanish speakers in India is fairly low.
But yeah, it's fairly low, but not zero.
That's true.
I can tell you that for free. We see Monica and Cherie. They're pushing through the roadblock and are currently in last. They're just like, they're not breaking down, although they have had a little bit more of a rough leg. And they're keep going. Billy and Chuck checking at the pit stop in 4th place. And now it is between Tian and Cherie, John and Al, and Monica and Cherie.
And at this point, I kind of thought maybe we'll get a non-elimination leg. I wouldn't be mad if we got one here. I really, really wanted one.
Well, did you want one just because, or because you wanted to save Monica and Cherie?
More so just because I didn't want the same thing of the last 3 seasons to happen, where they shoved them all at the back of the race. I just kept thinking, now is an adequate time to have one.
Yeah, I thought so too. I said, okay, well, spoiler alert, we're here. Monica and Cherie are in last.
Yeah, Tian and Cherie gets 5th, and John and Al gets 6th.
And John and Al in 6th. And both of them had good reactions to this.
Yeah.
They cheered, they had a great time. John and Al collapsed in relief on the ground. So that's good to see. But yes, I thought we could have pulled out a non-elimination for them.
We're just going to make the same mistake of having 3 million episodes with the same 4 teams at the end. And I don't want that. Yeah.
Okay. So we're at our final 6. And I would assume next episode is going to be a non-elimination, because I think that's when they start.
It has to be.
The last couple times. Because it was, finals, 2 episodes. So final 6, elimination. Final 5, non-elimination, and then they eliminate. Well, I don't know. I don't want to think about this.
But either way, they're staying in India next week. Looks like they're going to be down and dirty in the mud at some point. Should be interesting.
Yeah, little quote. I think Phil says, Kelly and John get nasty. And they're talking about Millie's mole again. Can we give it a rest?
It's like her mole is not that big of a deal, actually.
It's like really like they're one. I guess they can't find anything else on her, and they just like profoundly despise her for no other reason. So they just go for the mole. I don't know.
Go for the mole.
But okay. To eulogize Monica and Cherie, I thought they were a good team. I was hoping to see them for longer. I thought they were our first kind of celebrity casting, I would say.
Celebrity adjacent, yeah.
Yeah. They were not overly entertaining, but they didn't take away from this season at all. I think they were more memorable than the other eliminated teams.
They were strong competitors.
Yep. And they did say this. They were very defeated in the fact that they were eliminated. Like they definitely felt like they could have given more.
Yeah, one of them did kind of tear up. So they weren't ready to go home.
And we weren't ready for them to go home either. Okay, but we are ready for next episode, where you can tune in to find us next week, same place. But until then, you can find us on Amazing Race Rewind, which is our Instagram username, or amazingracerewind@gmail.com to send us an email. Let us know of any of your thoughts, opinions, any information or things we missed. Jill?
Yeah, and as we've said before, we have the Buy Us a Coffee page, where if you follow on there, you will get email and post notifications when we post a new episode. I did forget 2 weeks ago, but that's not going to happen again. And also, the posts are interactive there. Comment, talk to us, talk to your fellow peers who watch this race.
Yeah, is this kind of a side note? A side note, but have you realized how all of our episode titles have been so negative? Like, they're just insults.
Yeah, but you know what? They perform. Send us an email or comment on one of the posts. You guys, obviously, I think it speaks to marketing psychology.
It speaks to marketing.
It does. Anyway, but you can't deny that when we have titles like that, the listeners were maybe a bit more intrigued. I don't know. Maybe talk to us. Tell us, are you more intrigued when we have negative titles?
I don't know. Or are you looking for positivity on this?
Yeah.
On this podcast. Okay, this is a little bit of a shorter episode, but I still felt like it was a good one.
Yeah, but I feel like next week maybe it'll be a bit longer.
Perhaps. You haven't seen the episode, though, have you? No. Okay, maybe next week will be longer. Who knows? You'll have to tune in to find out. But until then, bye.
Bye.